Have you ever noticed the narcissist does not live in reality? They live inside a performance, their own theater. They don't seek to be understood. They crave to be admired. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Those who chase fame do not seek truth. They only seek the eyes of the crowd. They are professional actors, masters of illusion, knowing when to cry, when to smile, and when to make you feel like the guilty one." But here's the secret. Their mask doesn't fall because you shout. It falls the moment you stop playing your part. Today, I'll show you how to expose a narcissist with one single question. A question that pierces through the mask and reveals the emptiness beneath. To understand why this question works, you must first understand the nature of the narcissist and the game they play so well. I'm Jason, and this is the Stoic Habit if you find strength in calm and power in clarity. Subscribe and join this brotherhood of Stoic minds. Let's dive right in. Part 1. The face of the Part 1. The face of the narcissist. When pride becomes a prison narcissist, when pride becomes a prison. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Those who live to be admired by others will die in loneliness." That line perfectly describes the soul of a narcissist. They don't live to understand themselves. They live to be seen. They exist through the eyes of others like a lamp that only shines when someone else flips the switch. And make no mistake, they are skilled, charming, persuasive. They know exactly what you want to hear. At work, they're the hero, always taking the credit. In love, they're the perfect partner, at least in the beginning, until the curtain starts to fall. As long as they're admired, they're kind, generous, magnetic. But the moment they feel their control slipping, they turn cold, manipulative, ruthless. They don't love you. They love the feeling of being loved by you. To them, you're not a person. You're a mirror reflecting their vanity. Seneca once warned, "No chain is heavier than the need to please others." The narcissist is a slave to admiration. They cannot survive without applause, and when the crowd goes silent, they collapse. Behind the confident smile lies a frightened child, terrified of being forgotten. They control others to hide that fear. They build palaces around their emptiness and call it themselves. Part 2. The battlefield of Part 2. The battlefield of the mind, the mind. Remember this, a narcissist doesn't care if you win or lose. They only care that you react. If you've ever argued with one, you already know. There's never an ending. You bring logic, they bring emotion. You bring truth, they bring denial. And somehow, every time the conversation ends, you walk away feeling like the one who's wrong. They possess a dangerous skill, the ability to distort reality. It's called gaslighting. They say things like, "I didn't do anything wrong. You're just too sensitive. You misunderstood. You're imagining things. Well, why are you so angry?" You really need to control your emotions. And just like that, your pain becomes the problem. Their fault becomes your fault. You leave the room doubting yourself, unsure of what's real, unsure of who you are. That is psychological warfare at its finest. They don't strike you, they make you strike yourself. Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in angering you, remember your mind is complicit in the provocation." That is the Stoic key. No one can manipulate you unless you let them. Every reaction is a string, and they're holding the other end. You cannot win a game designed for you to lose. The narcissist doesn't want resolution. They want control. And the moment you react, you've already stepped into their hands. So, how do you win? You don't. You walk away. You stop playing. I once met a woman who escaped a marriage built on emotional abuse. She told me. I tried crying, explaining, begging. But when I finally went silent, he was terrified because when you go silent, they lose their power. When you stop arguing, they lose their grip. When you no longer need their approval, they collapse. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who does not respond to insult has already rendered the insulter powerless." That is Stoic power, strength, not from striking back, but from absolute self-control. Part 3. The one question that exposes them. Part 3. The one question. Most people lose to the narcissist because they try to convince them. They try to make them understand, admit their fault, or apologize. But you can't force someone living in illusion to see the truth. To them, truth is a threat, because if they see it, they must face themselves. And that is what they fear most. But there is a way. No shouting, no blame, no proving. Just one question. A question that cracks the mask. Look them in the eye, calm, steady, unshaken, and ask, what would you do if you could never impress anyone again? And then say nothing because silence will do theirest. In that moment, you've stripped away their lifeblood admiration. The narcissist doesn't know who they are without an audience. They exist through the gaze of others. Without applause, they are nothing. Without attention, they lose direction. When you ask that question, you hold up a mirror. But this time, the mirror reflects nothing back, only emptiness. And for the first time in their life, they see true fear. The fear of being meaningless. They might laugh it off, change the subject, mock you. What kind of question is that? Who even cares about that? But don't be fooled. Inside, they're falling apart. Because deep down, they know the real answer. Nothing. If they couldn't impress anyone, they wouldn't know how to live. I once met a woman named Claire. She fell in love with a man who seemed perfect, successful, generous, charming. He made her believe their love was destiny. But only months later, she realized something was wrong. She could no longer show her real emotions. Every time she was sad, he said, "You're ruining my mood." Every time she needed to be heard, he turned the spotlight back to himself, boasting about his accomplishments, his greatness, his endless victories. Slowly, Claire disappeared. Piece by piece, her soul eroded until one day she looked at him and asked, "If no one knew how great you are, would you still do what you do?" He paused, then smiled coldly and said, "Of course not. Nothing means anything unless people know about it." 23. That day, Claire didn't need any more proof. She finally understood. She hadn't been in love with a man. She'd been in love with a mask. Part 4. Stoic Defense. Part 4. Stoic Defense. The power of detachment. The power of detachment. Detachment doesn't mean coldness. It means inner freedom. When you stop reacting the way they expect, you dismantle their entire system of control. When you don't get angry, they lose their footing. When you don't need their apology, they lose the game. When you go silent, they're left to hear the echo of their own emptiness. A Stoic does not seek revenge. He seeks mastery over himself. Seneca once said, "He who seeks revenge only shows that he is still wounded." And Epictetus reminded us, "No one can disturb your peace unless you hand them the keys to your soul." The best defense isn't attack. It's withdrawal from psychological dependence. Because the narcissist only has power as long as you still want to be understood by them. The moment you stop expecting, they become powerless. I once knew a man who had been manipulated by his lover for 3 long years. She made him feel guilty for not loving enough, not being romantic enough, not caring enough. One day, he simply stopped. He didn't argue. He didn't explain. He didn't defend himself anymore. And just like that, she disappeared because she no longer had a source to feed on. The silence had starved her illusion. And that silence wasn't weakness. It was a declaration of strength. Conclusion. The Stoic Victory. Conclusion. The Stoic Victory. The next time you stand before a narcissist, remember this. They are not monsters. They are wounded children trapped inside the image they built to survive. You don't need to destroy them. You only need to stop believing in the illusion. And if you truly want to expose them, don't shout. Don't explain. Don't beg for fairness. Just ask one question. What would you do if you could never impress anyone again? That question is a mirror to their soul. And in that reflection, you will see the one thing they fear most, themselves. They fear being forgotten. They fear disappearing into silence. But you don't. Because when you choose silence, when you choose to walk away instead of react, you've already won the greatest victory of all, the victory over yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Others may lie, deceive, or betray, but you choose to keep your soul pure." That is Stoic power. Not in domination, not in revenge, but in self-mastery, calm, unshaken, untouchable. Remember, you cannot heal a narcissist, but you can heal yourself by no longer letting them define you. The moment you understand the strength of silence, the moment you no longer need to be admired, you become something they never can be, a free soul. So keep walking with clarity, with peace, with power. And if this message spoke to you, share it with someone who's ready to take their power back. Join our Stoic community. Subscribe and begin your own training of the mind. And down in the comments, write just one line to seal your commitment. Please subscribe my channel.